If you'd also, thanks so much for that telephone call. If you'd also like to call in and weigh in, we are trying to focus more toward a shift to talking about climate change. How does it make you feel that, forget about your retirement plan, millennials out there, we might all very well be dead within 12 years. So, how does that make you feel? How does it, how does it make you feel that, or what do you think about the idea that we're a lot later in the game than we tend to think we are? So again, we are sort of transitioning to this ecological catastrophe that we're dealing with here. Again, Andrew Yang brought it up by saying that that it's too late to go back to the Paris climate change. We should be climate agreement. We should be moving our people to higher land. So he's already talking about mitigation. But Guy McPherson, again, you can go to guymcpherson.com. It's just Guy, like guys and gals. And then McPherson is spelled McPherson. So guymcpherson.com. And then you can look for this article under the menu called Climate Change Summary and Update. It's a very long article, very well sourced. It'll take a couple sittings to really read through. But I'm going to read to you a little bit from it right now, just so you can get a sense of the way Guy McPherson comes across and the kinds of things that he's trying to get us to think about. So this is a section from about a quarter of the way through the essay, which is entitled "Predicting Near-Term Human Extinction," which is, of course, sort of the thing that sets Guy McPherson apart from a lot of climate scientists. We hear we have to do something before it's too late. There's also the sort of there's the newsroom clip where they have the government scientist on who says, "Oh, it's too late," and this is also sort of Guy McPherson's general thrust of what he's trying to change about our conversation. So again, here's a quote, predicting near-term human extinction. If you think we'll adapt, think again. Even if you're the Wall Street Journal claiming on the 2nd of December 2014 that it's too late for mitigation, the rate of evolution trails the rate of climate change by a factor of 10,000, according to a paper published in the issue of Ecology Letters focused on vertebrates. An example comes from the online issue of the Global Ecology and Biogeography, focused on California, which has an extensive collection of herbarium records, so records about plants. The researchers used 681,000 georeferenced records to maintain mean shifts in elevatorial and climatic space of 4,426 plant taxa, and found that non-native invasive species were more likely to be expanding their ranges than native species. Furthermore, plants and animals did not move together in synchronized fashion, and thus leading to the suspicion that ecological communities are breaking down and dissembling. So we already are seeing the indications that the way life functions on this planet is breaking down. It's not just society. It's not just, how microorganisms work, how birds eat worms, all the different little things in the web of life that we build our society on top of. We are causing a deep rot and disintegration of the function of life processes on this planet. Goes on, Guy McPherson goes on to write, quote, even once rich habitats in Antarctica are becoming biologically impoverished as icebergs, increasingly breaking free from the surrounding sea ice, scour the shallow water rocks and boulders on which a diversity of creatures cling to life. Another paper finds that, consistent with research on vertebrates, butterflies can't keep up with rapid changes in habitat. Bottom line of the abstract: these results highlight a potentially common situation in changing environments. Evolutionary changes are not strong enough to fully compensate for the direct adverse effects of environmental change, and thereby rescue populations from extinction. So we'll get more back into those implications, but we have another caller here. Hi, caller, go ahead.
Hey, this is Patrick. Just wanted to say that a lot of this alarmism that we have about climate crisis tends to just shorten what people have a tolerance to do. Like, oh, I can't do anything anyway, or I can't, what can I do? What can I do in my small space? And I think Yang is trying to call the alarm to say, stop talking about climate crisis in terms of 1 or 2 degrees, but start talking about it in terms of what it will cost us. It will cost us an incredible amount of money to prepare for some of the things, like look at what's already happened. I mean, the rising seas and other things, the bad weather, the weather that we have where people can't work in the fields. What's it going to cost our agriculture, and nothing is growing? We don't talk about climate crisis in those terms, and I think we need to. We need to talk about how sick people will be, how bad it will be for our finances. I mean, talk about it from a conservative standpoint to get those people that just don't want to believe. It will cost you more money not to act. The problem is we've been hearing this for the last 30 years. So people have kind of, grown dead to the message. It's kind of like the number of gunslings we have. We're sort of numb to the issue. And I think what we need to do is really start talking about climate crisis in terms of the amount of money it is costing the world to prepare for this. I mean, why do we have so many refugees? Part of that is because of drought. They can't grow food. They get mad. They go after other people. This is driving a lot of the world issues, and we need to change the conversation a little bit. That's just something I've thought hard about, and something I think we need to really start taking a look at. Is really start talking about this in terms of dollars and cents. This is costing us and going to continue to cost us.
All right, thanks so much. We have another caller here, so got to let you go, unfortunately. But hi, second caller, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I pretty much agree with that previous caller. I mean, this issue of climate change, I think it's a little, he made it sound like there would at least be an economy after the global warming gets really going. But when you start looking at tidal waves, just imagine back, 5 years ago when that big earthquake off the coast of Japan hit, and the tidal wave went 5 miles inland and just wiped out everything. The idea that the economy could be even considered normal, and that's without the nuclear power plant of Fukushima going off. So if you imagine that the oceans start rising, that's going to happen worldwide. And so the economy, since it's in the 90% of the population of the world live near the ocean, there's going to be a huge amount of devastation, and expecting the economy to be normal is far from truth. So one of the things, personally I recommend, that people think about dismantling what's at the shoreline, taking it apart, moving it uphill. It's kind of like Noah, warning in advance. Okay, it's probably going to rise 20 feet, so let's pull it back 40 feet in case there's a big slosh factor, And so the whole idea of expecting tidal waves, knowing you don't want rusty nails after it's all over, making it clean before the oceans rise so that you have clean fishing grounds, and your beaches are prepared in advance, so to speak, as opposed to just having total wreckage afterward. So these politicians that are ignoring it are putting us at risk. They're refusing to allow us to use our tax money to prepare. They're refusing to have us prepare for fresh water systems or for sewage systems or for, communications and transportation. How many highways are going to be wiped out with mass flooding like that? So, the whole idea that we can prepare in advance, but it's also smarter to do things like they're saying, planting trees is probably the smartest thing that we could do as humans. We need to sop up all of that CO2. We need to sop up all the extra water vapors in the sky, and that's sucked up into trees. And so, planting trees is one of the wisest things that we could be doing. And if we have a vacation coming up this summer, it'd be a smart idea to start planting trees in Dixie cups, and during vacation time, go out and plant them someplace.
Excellent. Well, thanks so much for that contribution. I completely agree with what both of those callers were trying to get at, just in the sense of trying to come at it from a pragmatic point of view. I think something that can prevent that from really working is that people hear, oh, well, that means I'm part of the problem. And that also has to do with people's psychology. People identify with the social roles that we have now, especially, people that are part of the working class, oftentimes feel like they're looked down on by the rest of society, don't get their due, but at least, people in the working class can feel like, but I'm what lets the whole system go. So even though, I don't really get the recognition I deserve, I can give myself recognition in the sense that, all those coastal elites that look down on me, like if it wasn't for people like me, like they would never be where they are, and this country would never have been what, it is right now or something like that. And it's a very powerful psychological effect that our economic system has. And it's important for us to realize, and this is sort of coming at you from sort of the Baudrillardian perspective here, basically the idea is that this idea of our work that we're doing and becoming invested in it is one of the main forms of social control that we have in our society. So it's very difficult to try and talk to people about, because people identify with their work. They want to feel like the things that they're doing are valuable for society. And on the one hand, the social relations that we have now, our economy, all the tools that we're building up are our only hope of doing anything. Those are the means at our disposal. But on the other hand, when you consider that the economy, the way we're running it, is killing us, it could very well kill us in less than 15 years. It goes to show you that in a large measure, a lot of the things that we do not have a positive value, in the sense that, in the sense of our long-term survival, it may be better for there to be an economic collapse and, for consumption to go down. And even, some people, I'm not going to go far as saying it'd be better if people died. But basically, if you just were to compare it that way as just like a short, sharp shock, or not necessarily short, but, basically, a huge economic catastrophe might actually be not as bad as where we are going right now. And that means that, the kinds of things we're always trying to reproduce, we're always trying to save money and spend more at the store. Well, the way we run our society, that store's not going to be there in 20 years. Your money's not going to be worth anything. So it's not even just about, it's costing us money. It's costing us our lives. It's costing us our future. It's costing us our children and grandchildren and people who are alive today. If you expect to live for the next 15 years, it could very well cost you your life as well. But anyway, we have another caller here. Hey, caller, go ahead.
Hi, Adam. I just had a few questions for you. I missed the first couple minutes of the program, so I don't know whether you've already said this, but it might be worth repeating anyway. But just a few questions, and then I had a comment. But so this climate scientist, is he saying that physically we are on a course that it's impossible to change, that we're going to die in 12 years, or that just given what he knows about our economic system, our social system, and the climate science, we're going to die in 12 years? I'm trying to understand what his thesis is.
I'm not 100% sure on that. I do think that he's more fatalist. He has quotes where he says, just try and enjoy your life, because, there's nothing, to save us. But, I do think even that perspective, it must also have some assumptions about human society, that we're stuck in our ways, we're stubborn, people are too invested in their identities and that kind of thing. And that is where I would be more skeptical. So I'm certainly, I don't think that we're just all going to die. But we sort of need to have the mentality that, unless the wildest thing in history ever happens, basically we're all going to die. And, there's other problems as well, like technology creating gray goo that just absorbs everything. There's a lot of existential threats. So, in terms of how Guy McPherson comes across, he does seem like this is the end. But in terms of my interpretation, if it's just that we need to be thinking outside the box. We really have to, found a new we have to be thinking on the level of civilizational acts in order to prevent this.
Right.
That's my own interpretation. Yeah.
Right. So I guess then for people who are listening in, the thing to clarify is that you're presented with a lot of evidence that either climate change. Well, not evidence. You're presented with a lot of propaganda that either climate change isn't real or it's not going to be that bad. But it's important to know that this spectrum runs all the way to the opposite side, to the point that it's just like, hey, we have a fatal diagnosis, we're all going to die. Get out your bucket list. That's kind of what you're trying to say here, and I think that's good, because I think as long as you keep that in mind, as soon as you give up and say, hey, we're all going to die, you might as well let out your bucket list, then you effectively just disengage. But if you say, okay, it's going to take something really wild for us to get through this, then that gives to people to get really wild and, to start, extinction rebellions and to be Greta Thunberg and be this young teenager and just say, fuck the system. Oh, excuse me. Say, forget the system and, we got to fix this thing. So I'm going to leave it there because I'm animated here.
Yeah, you kind of made a boo-boo there, so I'm going to cut off that caller. Sorry, that is, of course, not within the confines of what we're supposed to be doing here at WRFG. But we also have another caller here on the line. Hey, caller, go ahead.
Hey, this is Guy McPherson, and since you were talking about me, I thought I'd call in.
Hey, I thought I saw a post by you. All right, well, we only have about 4 minutes left, so, we've been sitting here gabbing on you. Why don't you share a few minutes of your own thoughts and what you'd like to hear today?
Yeah, if people would go to GuyMcPherson.com, as you recommended, I think that would help clarify a lot of these concerns. The primary issue is that civilization, which we'll call this set of living arrangements, is a heat engine and is heating up the planet way faster than we will be able to adapt.
But anyway, we very much so have the spiritual resources in order to, get by, in order to feel at peace with what's going on, regardless of what happens, and also to, make the best attempt we can to, fix our situation, which is really all that we can try and do. Hi, caller, go ahead.
This is Guy McPherson again. Sorry,
all right.
I broke the internet.
No problem. I can only give you a couple minutes because we're already over time, but I obviously am so honored that you would call in. So, speak a couple minutes of your perspective. Thank you.
No, I just wanted to say, again, that it's inevitable where we're headed. I think it's time to come to grips with the fact that we've been given a terminal diagnosis. It seems to me the way to proceed is with planetary hospice, and that means full honesty. That means treating each other with decency. That means all those things that you've heard about hospice for your individual lives, and now's the time. We don't have long. Thank you very much for the show. I appreciate the time committed to this most important of topics.
Absolutely. Thank you. And with that, I'll be playing one more PSA, and then we'll be going straight to Hard Knock Radio. So thanks for joining us. Again, you can find a link to today's program and see some more commentary at Speaking Broadly Show on Instagram. And I also have a Twitter account at Tweeting Broadly on Twitter. So without further ado, I'm going to play this PSA, and we'll go straight to Hard Knock Radio. Thank you.